that they want to do. So there has been a mass mobilization of the Democratic base to call their senators and tell them vote no. So yesterday it was a real open question. It looked like they were going to cave. And then Chuck Schumer gets on the Senate floor and seems to indicate a different strategy. Let's take a listen to a little bit of what he has to say.
Republicans chose a partisan path, drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR. Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass. We should vote on that. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us to avoid a shutdown on Friday.
So what he floats there is a 30-day, quote-unquote, clean CR, which means the same funding levels as currently exist, no messing around, no different provisions, no rolling back this, no adding money to defense, et cetera, just for 30 days so that they can negotiate on a broader package. So initially there were a lot of, Democratic activists who were like, oh my God, they're actually not going to cave. But what it looks like is actually probably happening, although none of this is a done deal yet, is that they are more... It's less that they're not going to cave and more that they're coming up with a strategy to try to trick their own base into thinking that they're fighting for something.
Yes,
so Let's put this up on the screen. This is the latest from Manu Raju over at CNN. He says John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader now, takes the procedural step to bring the House spending bill to the floor. The vote would occur Friday morning, hours before the government shutdown deadline. Unless there's an agreement to have it sooner, 60 votes would be needed. Schumer is threatening to block it, but senators on both sides think an agreement to give Dems an amendment vote for a 30-day extension, which would fail, could help end the standoff. So effectively, Democrats' strategy appears to be that they're going to push for this show vote on a 30-day CR. They're going to vote for cloture, so they're going to, not filibuster the whole thing. Their little 30-day show vote will fail, but since they've already voted for cloture, that means that Republicans can move forward with their CR and pass it with a bare majority. They no longer need the Democrats, and things move forward. So, Like I said, I know that was a lot, but the TLDR is that Democrats appear to be trying to come up with a plan to trick their own base into thinking they are not caving when they, in fact, are caving.
Right. It's hilarious because it would take people like us to have to sit here and to explain it to everyone. But the point is that this is actually fecklessness on their part because they're getting a lot of pressure to try and appear as if they're standing up to Trump. And if you compare it to, let's say, the Tea Party, I mean, they would have no qualms whatsoever of voting this thing down. They're like, absolutely not. You're going to give us what we want. Oh, the House is out of town. We don't care. Shut the government down. If you think about it, too, the White House seems to think that they would be on strong grounds for a shutdown. I don't think that that's true because people usually blame the party in power of all three. And the executive largely is the person who absorbs all of that. I think actually one reason I heard floated is that Democrats are terrified of a shutdown because then Trump gets to decide who is essential government personnel and who's not. So it would only be even easier for him and Doge to fire the employees. But broadly, people should be aware here. The Democratic leadership is rudderless. They have no idea what they're doing. The Democratic senators are actually getting quite a bit of calls and others to their offices telling them, hey, please, do something. And they just refuse, basically, to even try. So they're trying to show people, oh, well, we did this. But, I mean, I don't think that people, voters and others, are going to buy it. They're going to see that at the end of the day, nothing goes through the Senate unless the Democrats want it to pass. Let's be clear here. In a world without the filibuster, and you still need 60 votes for cloture. If the Dems vote for it, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so I think if this is what they go forward with, again, not a done deal yet. And guys, if you want them to stand up, you can call them and let them know. And I know many people out there that are. But I do think if they, it's almost worse. Just if you want this thing to go, then just freaking vote for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Just vote for it.
Yeah.
Don't mess around. Don't try to trick people into thinking you're fighting when really you're not. Don't do that. I think that will actually just piss people off even more because they're going to see through the trick. Let me go ahead and play Pramila Jayapal, who, of course, a progressive leader in the House, warning Democratic senators of exactly what Sagar is saying, which is you may face a real backlash if you go along with Republicans and this one moment when they need you and when you have some leverage to potentially extract something from them in this negotiation. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
They should refuse to allow this bill to pass in the Senate.
If they don't?
I think there's going to be huge backlash from across the country, and I think all of them will have to deal with the consequences of that.
The Republicans have the White House, the Senate, and the House. If they want to do this, and if they want to screw over the American people, they can do this with their votes and their party. I do not believe that Democrats should participate.
And to Sagar's point about the Democratic leadership being rudderless, we have all known for months now that this shutdown fight was coming on March 14th. And yet they had not worked out a strategy. They hadn't really aggressively messaged around it. So, that there isn't a clear cut, like, okay, here's what we're demanding in exchange. Like, we will support, we don't want to shut down the government because we're Democrats and we support the government, whatever. But here's our list of demands. None of that has been developed. None of that has been messaged. To address what Sagar was saying, too, about, the concern that, listen, number one, for Democrats, it's uncomfortable because they are the party of like, hey, we actually think that government does some good things. It's a different ideological orientation versus the Tea Party that's like, screw government, whatever. We don't care if it shuts down. So that is uncomfortable. But to address that core concern of like, okay, so if there's a government shutdown, then maybe you're just handing power to Trump and Elon to say who's essential and who's not. And I just look at that and I'm like, what world are you living in? Because they're already operating that way. I mean, we just got the, Department of Education just got slashed by half this week. USAID was just completely dismantled, as was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Like, probationary employees were mass fired across the government. Elon and Doge are deciding what they feel like spending and what they don't. So that ship has sailed. Like, they already are calling the shots on literally everything. They are racking up losses in terms of the court system. But as you can tell, like, that is taking a long time for any of that to be enforced or final decisions to be made, et cetera. And meanwhile, they're just rolling through and doing whatever they want. So if you think that you're protecting something by going along with this and continuing, like, the government is effectively already in a shutdown in a certain sense because Trump and Elon have already claimed those powers for themselves.
Yeah, I think it is just ironic that really what we're watching is a fall apart of the Democratic strategy, which doesn't have a singular pillar like last time, which was just Russiagate. And so this time around, whenever they're trying to be and find a message, they just don't really know quite what to do. I also think that there is an elderly aspect to this with Schumer, where Schumer is a traditionalist of the White House. He's not somebody who's ever read the base and or its moment. So his political movement is not one that, at least like with McConnell was an old school creature, but he understood very clearly the assignment. If we'll all remember the famous quote of him in 2009, and he's like, our job is to get Barack Obama not reelected, period. He's like, we're not here to do anything else. Our job is to defeat Obama. That's it. We need to hold up the president's agenda. And he laid it out very clearly. That was a big scandal in Washington at the time. But if we're looking back, it was the correct strategy if you were working on behalf of the Republicans, because what the Republicans saw is their base hated Obama. They didn't want anything to do with any senator or whoever was going to play ball. And that happened in the Tea Party wave. Many of the people who got took out, many of the incumbents, even in their primaries, were those who saw as too conciliatory to the administration. So at a political level, they just have no clue yet what they're dealing with right now, and I do think it's a big problem for them.
I mean, I would be inclined to agree with your assessment that it's like elderly gerontocracy. I think that's part of it. But then when you see Bernie Sanders, who's like 83 years old, who's out there and like
also,
leading the charge.
86,
I mean, Bernie is the leader of the Democratic Party right now. Like, he has stepped into that role. I think that is,
I don't think that's true.
I think that is absolutely true. In terms of he is the one person who is like setting the bar of, okay, here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to move forward and here's how we're messaging. That's what I mean by he is the leader of the Democratic Party at this point. It sure as hell is not Chuck Schumer. And so I think it's less an issue of his age and more an issue of a cowardice that has set in at the core of Democratic Party electeds, especially like elected leaders. They are so afraid of rocking the boat, of facing some blowback, of having to make a case, of really getting into the arena. And that's to me what really comes through here.